Let's talk about the process of becoming a successful franchisee, because it doesn't sound like it was necessarily was your first location. Would you consider that a success?
It's a resounding success. Yeah.
So first location, very successful. Second location, just as successful?
Yeah. We faced challenges. We've been a success, but we've had our ups and downs to get there.
See, I've had one in the salon suite industry. Our third location was a disaster. So but the other ones were, some of them I just couldn't help but just make a lot of money, no matter how much I could have tried to stop from making money. It was just going to be a success. And then the third one, it was just a challenge from day one. But it sounds like you've had, pretty good success all the way along with your locations. Is that accurate?
It's accurate. What I would say though is when we scaled rapidly, that's when we ran into our own set of challenges with, people and talent and ops and things along those lines that we had to solve for.
So talk about that. Like, when did you start to run into challenges? Because let me say it this way. There's a lot of brands out there that promise absentee as a lofty dream, or semi-absentee. Like, hey, this thing is semi-absentee and all you have to do is put in a manager. From my experience, semi-absentee means it can be run by a manager, but that manager has to be a freaking rock star. And in my experience, the best semi-absentee businesses that I've owned, I've had that manager that treated it like their own. And either they, I think that person should have some gold at the end of the rainbow. They should participate in something at the end of an exit, or get bonused, somehow. But you have that person that has that ownership mentality, and probably because they have a little bit of ownership. The worst ones that I've seen are putting a manager in that's just wants a wage, and they don't treat it like their own. So I've had personally successes and failures in semi-absentee brands, because my successes were because I had the right person. My failures were because I had the wrong person. I had the wrong kind of mindset going into it. So what about you?
I think it's really, really difficult to think about opening your own business and thinking about running it in an absentee fashion. It's just not what's in my DNA or my makeup. I mean, I guess if you have a vending machine, business or something along those lines, that's a little bit more absentee. But I would imagine if you talk to somebody in the vending machine industry, they would, the successful ones are the ones that are all in with both feet. And I kind of lived on both sides of that. I held a corporate job through the first two locations that we opened. And then it was when we opened our third location, that's when I stepped away. I quit my day job to focus on scaling Restore and hopefully other brands in the future full time. And that's when we had I would say it was a game changer for us, when you went in with both feet and said, this is what I do. I get up every day thinking about this. And I think you have to be prepared to do that if you want to be successful long-term, or like you said, have a team that is where you have an operating partner or some type of structure where somebody is getting up thinking that this has to work every single day.
So you went into it full-time a couple years later, 2 open locations. How scary was that, leaving the nice paycheck?
I want to spend some time on this because, this is really what held me back. We were at the Restore annual conference one year, and the keynote speaker at the end was Jesse Itzler. I don't know if you've ever heard Jesse speak.
Yep.
But he gets inside your head. And we were in a large conference room. I was at the front table. The lights were bright. All he could see was me. So he kind of spoke literally at me, got my name, asked me questions. And my business partners and I and my wife, we sat down for lunch before we hit the airport. And I said, I'm going in to quit my job on Monday. And, my business partner said, hold on, you don't need to do that. And my wife said, please let him do that. He's been, stating this for many, many years. And it was really what was in between my ears, which was holding me back, because it is really hard to think about leaving a steady income, a regular paycheck, but I've never looked back since doing it. And I wish I would have done it sooner. And that would be my message to a lot of people, is just stop talking and actually take those steps to get started.
So we'll get into kind of, why you were successful at Restore, but you said it earlier that, you quit your job, you got started, to go kind of all in with Restore and future brands. And, you're now a franchisee, a large franchisee with one of our portfolio brands, goGLOW. So let's walk us through you looking at other brands as a successful franchisee in a brand, why start a second brand? What kind of stuff did you look at, and why did you land on goGLOW?
So about a year ago, we decided that, while we were successful, we were kind of aimlessly successful. We didn't have a 10-year strategic plan. We were doing things that we thought were the right things, and we were having a level of success with it. My leadership team and I, we attended a one-day seminar on, kind of 10Xing your business. And we kind of walked away from that, and we realized that we don't really think long-term. We scaled out 7 restore locations in 18 months. So we were busy, with a lot of stuff, and there wasn't time, to think about thinking long-term. So we actually sat down, did an offsite for a day, figured out where we want to be in 10 years, and then kind of wound the clock back and had a 5-year waypoint, a 3-year waypoint, a 1-year, a quarter, so on and so forth. And it became really apparent that we want to continue to scale restore, but we're going to need to bring some other brands in. And we're actually pretty good at what we do. We've got some gaps. We're still going to continue to make some mistakes, I'm sure. But that was really what kind of drove the desire to say, hey, let's see what else is out there. And we looked at a handful of different brands before we came to our decision with goGLOW.
So what kind of industries were you diving into, looking at?
I mean, we tried to stay in our lane pretty much of health, wellness, and beauty. That's kind of what we're comfortable with: health, wellness, beauty. We looked at a couple of fitness concepts as well.
Why did you let certain brands go? Why did you not move forward with certain brands?
So we had some criteria, and I think it's important to have criteria. One of the things that we knew that we liked was we liked being pioneers. We like to be early in brands because and you touched on it earlier, we like to build the brand with the franchisor. And I always say we're net givers to any system that we've gotten involved in. I think if you ask anybody at Restore, we give more than we take from the system. Yeah, we really believe it's a marriage, and you've got to do things to help one another to have a successful marriage. So we looked for those brands that we could be early on in. We looked at the founder as well. Were they comfortable with us getting involved with them and building the brand with them? And we threw some tests out there along the way as we were evaluating goGLOW. And
dude, I probably don't even know about these
probably
tests.
not.
What were some of the things that you threw out there, or part of your criteria?
Yeah, I mean, we have a pretty good process around just little things like insurance, real estate, public relations, and we threw some connections the way of Front Street and goGLOW. And what was really helpful to us was when we saw the team at goGLOW pick up the phone and engage with these people, and realize that, hey, they might fulfill a need that we have as we grow our franchise footprint. As an emerging brand, do they have an insurance solution that they can provide as turnkey for all their franchisees? We happen to have that. We kind of transferred that over to them, and they kind of went and ran with it. Same on the public relations side, so on and so forth. So a lot of the things that we threw out there were things that we wanted to see. Are they willing to take some of what's worked for us to be able to help the brand overall and new franchisees as they come into the system?
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.